Well, everyone, welcome. My name is Vasya Rosario. I'm a Senior Service Engineer Manager at Microsoft. My team is accountable for the internal cloud hosting services. And today with me, Sasha Ville is also speaking. He's a Principal PM at previously OMS, Azure Management. So today, we're going to give you an overview of our journey, our Microsoft internal journey to the cloud. We're going to give you an overview of how we manage our enterprise in Azure at scale. And then we're going to have some demos of Azure governance. So before we get started, I want to give you an overview of how our organization is structured. We have shared services at the core of our internal IT. We just recently got rebranded to CSE, so wherever you see CSE, imagine IT right next to it. We now are the organization that manages our core services, engineering, and operations, AKA IT. That's an overview of organization. As I was saying earlier, we have shared services at the core. These shared services manage infrastructure and client for all of our business partners. We have about 9 business partners that are actually application engineering teams that leverage our hosting services to deploy their portfolios and their workloads into that infrastructure. So we're accountable for that platform. When we started this journey to the cloud, we started with that footprint. So as I'm talking about the journey, keep in mind that we started with 44,000 OS instances that we had to move to the cloud. About 31.6 petabytes of storage. It was a very big infrastructure to wrap our heads around. This is making a lot of noise, right? Okay. Let me try to fix that. That will be better. Okay. Actually, no, not yet better. Anyhow, when our CIO said we have to move to the cloud, this is the approach that we came with. We started with analyzing our portfolio, understanding where we were going to put all of our items, all of our resources, and we analyzed everything, all the 44,000 OS instances that we had, and we categorized them in buckets in terms of how are we going to disposition of these assets. And then after we had that agreement across the organization, across the SLT, we started our actual journey to onboard to the cloud. As you can see at the top, as you may imagine, when the CIO said we're moving, there were some applications that actually didn't have budget to go re-architect their stuff. So it was a great opportunity for our partners to actually look at their portfolio and determine what we call waste. So at that top part there, you can see that about 30% of our portfolio fell into that category. That means 30% of the portfolio could either be retired, could be resized, or it could be eliminated completely. So our application partners actually starting evaluating their capabilities and consolidating. If there were multiple applications that were doing the same thing, consolidated, so we were able to retire servers. They also looked at their environments. If the application was already a sustained application, but they still have a dev and test environment, we said, well, you don't need that because you don't have funding to do that. So let's just go remove all the environments. And it was also a great opportunity for our application engineering team to look at all the servers that they were hoarding, because we like to do that in IT, or at least at Microsoft. I don't know if you guys do that in your companies. So that was a great opportunity to expose all of that and then take away all of what we consider waste. On the second layer, about 15% of our footprint was actually able to move to what we call commodity services. So all of the SaaS services that were already out there, we just say, just go and leverage those. So we had SharePoint farms, we have on-server, we have on-prem services to manage our office, we had VSTS, et cetera. So we started saying, okay, there's a bunch of SaaS out there that can give you the same capabilities. Let's just deprecate our on-prem infrastructure and leverage those services to begin with. So about 15% of our portfolio fell into that category. Then in the bottom, you have the 50%, everything in orange, yellow. They are about 50% of our platform, of our infrastructure, everything in our platform. It's what we had to get very, very curious about in terms of how do we take this footprint and move it to the cloud. We tried several approaches, but in the end, we actually broke it into these three major components, which is there's stuff that we can move right away. These are things that are moving to the cloud right away, which are, our basic web apps, stuff, applications that had budget to re-architect, so we did some tweaks here and there, and we were able to adopt the cloud. And then all net new investments were going directly to the cloud. Then we focused on the areas that were a little bit more complex, high I/O, throughput and whatnot, so we leveraged that later on. We did those migrations after the fact, and that 5% we say, well, we're going to look at that later on down the road because those are very complex. We don't know if Azure has the capabilities, et cetera. And that bottom 5%, the one now back in the funnel down there, has changed over time. Early on, what was there was everything that we know could not move because the capabilities weren't there. And today what we have is primarily people doing POCs that are waiting for all the due diligence for the security, compliance, and whatnot, or the actual infrastructure that we use to manage our secure environments, our PKI, et cetera, that are not yet moving to the cloud. So that gives you an idea of the approach that we took for the adoption. We're super excited that 82% of our portfolio is actually in the cloud today. So we're managing 82% of Microsoft's corporation in Azure internally. And in the process, we actually gained a 50% reduction in assets. So before, our team had to manage about 44,000 OS instances. Today, we're at like 21 something. So I'm rounding up. Anyhow, here's an overview of our journey. We started this cloud adoption journey back in FY15. That's the reason why that bucket at the bottom had changed over time as new capabilities are enabled. We continue to embrace the cloud. We started with a very centralized approach where the shared services team governed and controlled and managed everything back in the day. We have slowly moved forward. Back in the day, we were leveraging Azure Classic, a WAP interface, because we wanted to have that single pane of glass, and we were doing IaaS for the most part. Of course, we had System Center doing all of the management for us. And as we move forward in FY16, for example, we started actually investing in PaaS. We had a whole year for our engineers to get caught up with the technology, understand, and plan for how they were going to re-architect their applications. So in FY16, we started doing PaaS, and then we continued to do the centralized management. But what changes, we actually gave accountability to the states. In our head, the states are the actual business partner units. So accountability for the migration to the cloud was no longer in the central team. The accountability actually shifted to the GMs that own all of those application engineering organizations. Fast forward to 17, we said, okay, you're not only going to own it at that level, we actually gave accountability to the application teams themselves. We said, application team, you own your cloud strategy. You own making it happen, and we're just at a measure and publish, if you will, at the federal level. We're just at a measure and publish capacity. We started using ARM, so now we're not only migrating from on-prem to cloud, we're also migrating from Classic to ARM. So a bunch of cloud migration, a lot of cloud stuff happening within the organization. We started leveraging the native portal. We started deploying templates because we wanted, of course, the fact that we don't govern or control doesn't mean we can't enable our application teams. So we started developing software to enable them, like templates, for example. And then we had our CI still in service now. That was one of the SaaS solutions that we leveraged early on. We have a bunch of servers for our CMDB, so we said, let's just leverage this solution. And then back in 2017, we started onboarding to OMS, now called Azure Management. We started POCing, and we started onboarding some of their capabilities. Fast forward to FY18, where we are today. We are empowering our business partners to transform into DevOps. We're transforming ourselves in the shared services layer, and we're enabling our BPUs to do the same. We're leveraging Azure Resource Management, native portal. We are deploying OMS toolkits, software. We're doing just about anything that we can to enable our BPUs to actually author infrastructure without us being in the way. We say, here are the building blocks, go have fun. If you can see, we have a shift now in where we're actually investing in PaaS first and not caring that much about IaaS, so that's where we're going. I'm still debating with the organization because I firmly believe that I can run subscription as a CI. I have to convince a lot of people about that. Still some people that I need to convince about that. I think that if you want real-time management, you just look at your subscription, the resources you have there, and that becomes your CI. So we're embarking in that transformation as well. And then we have distributed management. So basically, we're enabling our BPUs to actually manage their own portfolio at the application level and their different resource groups. So what we learned through this journey, 3 things that I want to share with you real quickly. For us, we learned that we have to deal with the fact that the culture can trump our strategy. We had this awesome strategy. We had everything categorized. We're going to go. We had the LT backing us up. But back in the day, all of our engineering partners were more concerned about all the reasons why they couldn't adopt the cloud than the capabilities that were actually still there or available at the time. So the mindset and the culture of the team plays a big role in shifting and transforming the organization. So that was a key learning for us. The second learning for us was that we had to early on determine what was truly a must-have and a non-negotiable. When you embark in an agile framework, people actually start with an MVP, right? If you apply that mentality to the cloud, don't expect all of the capabilities to be there. Just start with what's good enough. But if you have that determined early on, what are your must-haves and your non-negotiable, it's easier to have that conversation and say, well, let's start here, and then we'll iterate and tune. So we had to learn the hard way. That's why our journey took about 4 years to complete, well, 3+. The other thing that was very helpful for us was actually focusing on the low-hanging fruits. We actually started with a very, very low-hanging fruit, like dev environments, UAT environments for very low-impact applications, so we can share with our teams and say, you prove the concept that it works. It actually works better than your environment on-prem. Look at all the capabilities you have, the elasticity, et cetera. So, and then from there, we actually kept going. Another thing that was very helpful for us was to actually prioritize the applications that had new investments in their POR. So we could say, okay, you're going to start with Azure first, and we're going to support you in the process. And also those applications that had close ROI targets so that we can say, okay, you're going to get your bang for your money right away. The last thing that we learned, which was very near and dear to our heart, is to find a balance between designing for tomorrow and delivering today. So in our case, in FY17, when the CIO said, this is the year that 90% of our infrastructure must be in the cloud, and oh, by the way, we're over budget. We said, what? How are we going to do this? We still had like, I don't know, maybe 20 or so thousand OS instances in the day, and we had to find a way. We turned to the product groups. We've been working with Azure, and the different Azure teams joined at the hip, and we say, we need a solution for optimization, because our people like to hoard servers on-prem, and they were still doing it in Azure, especially the ones that started with the very low impact applications. They threw the environments on the cloud, forgot about them, and were paying, right? for all those years. And they said, well, sure, we're going to put it into our cadence. We take your requirements. We're going to deliver in probably 18 months. And we're like, well, we only have 8 months, right, or so, or less, because we have to migrate to realize that cost saving. So in IT, in CSC, we actually wrote a bunch of workaround. We wrote our own optimization for the cloud. So we had to do that balance. We couldn't stop adopting. We just worked around it. We needed that capability to be successful, and we were actually very successful. There's a bunch of information online that you can find in IT Showcase for our optimization story. When we did our optimization suite, we actually saved $11 million in 1 month. So there was a lot of waste out there. And we're super happy because in the end we say, hey, Azure, here's our requirement. We're going to throw it over the fence with source code. And they actually worked on it. So we're super happy of the partnership and what they're doing and all the optimization features that are coming now natively with Azure. Some of those were announced this week. So we're super excited that we don't have to continue to maintain our workarounds, that we can deprecate those. So now we started very centralized, moved over to less centralized, and of course, as the Azure capabilities changed, we were able to enable our engineering team even further. So just quick tips on optimization. It works whether you have the workaround or you're using Azure capabilities. So just our learnings from there. Get access so you can actually see all of your inventory, because we gave the keys to the kingdom to the application teams, and now we're saying, well, we need to pick into your kingdom. Let me see what you have there. So we could centrally report per application team at the GM level what was the inventory, performance, utilization, and whatnot, so that we could surface opportunities for improvement, opportunities for optimization. We engaged the LT, where they determined how they were going to tackle the optimization targets, or if they were to begin with. And then we integrated all the way into VSO after there was an engagement at the LT, and they say, yep, we're going to go do this optimization. Tasks were created for specific members of teams to actually go look at the environment and make whatever changes we were proposing. We track costs. We say, hey, look at the changes you did. Look at how much you saved this month on your bill. And then we publish that across the organization to get the GMs competing between each other. You know, I save this amount of money, and the other one, hey, I saved this amount of money, and the other one, well, I have this huge plan. I'm going to save even more than all of you in the next quarter, or whatever. So it was really fun to see the engagements across the board. Our strategic value in the short term, of course, was to get resiliency and agility, but in the long term, it was all about cost avoidance. We had a wave of infrastructure deployments that were going to happen, refreshes on our compute, on our storage. We're actually still working on some of that wave this year for a bunch of arrays that we need to redeploy because we're end of warranty or end of life. And we got to the point where this is really cool. Well, our partners don't think it's really cool. But we got to a process where if anyone wants to deploy hardware to the data center, or even a VM on-prem, they have to go and explain themselves to the CFO, to Amy Hood. First, they come to the central team, where we do performance analysis, and we actually prove or disprove the fact that they can move to the cloud because of a technical capability or lack of thereof. And after we do that, then if we say, yep, technically you can't move, from a technical perspective, you can't move, go explain the business reasons to the CFO of why you need that. So that has enabled us from the central team to actually stop data center expansion, stop data center retrofits. And as you may imagine, as we onboard the cloud, we have also decreased our dependency on managed services contracts for operations. So we started with a $64 million contract, and we're now at like a $10 million or so per year, for our operations. So savings all across. Now, how do we manage all of this? We started managing the 44 with System Center, and as we have the 20 or so online, we're heavily leveraging Azure Management. We started at the configuration, all the way to the right there, monitoring, protecting, securing, And we're recently investing in the governance side with policy and whatnot. So that's the central core that we're using. And we're using today OMS for both our on-prem and our Azure footprint. So this gives you an idea of the footprint that we're managing with OMS. We have about 6 of the 9 business units actually engaged in using OMS to manage their infrastructure. About 31,000 assets. Now this 31 is not just servers. We have IoT devices. We have our Azure IaaS VMs. We have our on-prem VMs. We actually have physical servers in the data center that we're managing with OMS. We have also conference room devices, our Skype rooms, our link rooms, the actual meeting thingy that tells you all the meetings that are happening that day. All of that we're managing through OMS, which is really cool. And the way that we are doing it, it's actually with the similar model that I was explaining before. We have a federated architecture where we have basically a federal level, that's the shared services team, that has a workspace in OMS where we pull in data from all of the other instances so we can manage and get reporting, alerting, logs, and everything from all of the organization, all of the infrastructure that we're managing. We have organization workspaces here where it says org, and they are the teams. So if you go back to the example, the GMs that have multiple applications, they have multiple subscriptions. One subscription for multiple applications, and then AGM may have multiple services. So in this model, the GMs at the state level have their application portfolio, and then they have the workspaces built up that way. And at the city level, they manage with directly at the resource group level. They also have workspaces for each individual application. The beauty of this and the engagements we're having with the cross workspace query, that's a mouthful, full mouth of words, is that we won't have to pay in the near future, right? We won't have to pay for all the workspaces, for having data replicated on all the workspaces, because the GM wants to have the data for all of their cities, and then the Fed, we want to see the data or have the data for all of the organization. So in this new model that we're partnering closely with the Azure governance team, we just got rebranded, we're going to be able to query multiple workspaces and not have to triplicate the data, and then take it from there. So it's going to be very, very helpful for us in the near future. So here's an example of what the retail team is doing on the client side, if you will. They're actually managing, they have this beautiful Power BI report, this is kind of old, almost a year old, where they actually monitor all of their stores real time. Not only the servers that they have there, but they have other devices like point of sales, their cash registers, etc. So they're monitoring all of it. And when they see something spike up, like say one of the reds there, they click on that and they actually go directly to an OMS dashboard. That's very granular data for that specific item that they're looking at. So we're able to take all of the rich information from OMS. I'm not going to say that again. We take all of that rich information from OMS and have it there so we can have very thorough drill down to understand what's happening within the environment. As you can see there, we have a mixture of Windows and Linux that we're getting logs, monitoring, we're monitoring network, etc. So it's awesome for us to have this overview and then come down into the very details for the store. So, enterprise management. If we want to give the keys to the kingdom to our application teams, we had to make sure that they don't shoot themselves on the foot. So instead of governing what they do or how they do, what we do is we put guardrails. We say, here are templates, here are policies. We're going to have access so that if something goes wrong, we can continue to provide crisis management from an operations perspective. If something goes completely south, we still have people that can jump in right away and support the team. So those are the things that we worked on. standardized resources, security, patching for zero-day blown. Right now, our BPUs are patching themselves at the city level, and if there's something that we have to deploy right away, we jump in and help them, and we help deploy as well from the federal level. So that's some of the scenarios we're working on right now. So I'm just going to give you quick examples because I want to leave some time for Sasha to come here and talk about Azure governance. This is a basic idea of how we have our subscriptions defined. We're doing RBAC, so we have different RBAC models for the different types of people. And not only we're doing RBAC, we're also doing just-in-time, and we're also doing LPA. So you can see that the 3 different RBAC groups represent least privileged access, who has access to do that, what, and very granular. This is a very basic example. Our subscription actually have multiple resource groups because we do ER, express routes centrally for the team. So our team actually managed that, and every subscription grabs from our ER circuit. So at the resource level, the application teams define the environment. So in this case, you see dev, test, and prod. And then we also have resource group for all of the networking that we're providing. So that's predefined. We manage subscriptions on behalf of our partners, and we have the standard way of doing it. We also do policies through the SC, where we define configurations. We define cases where we apply and monitor, and then there are other configuration that we say we're applying it, we're monitoring it, and we're actually remediating it. We're not going to let you change that. The reason we do that is because we embarked a few years ago in a DPMO program, Defects per Million Opportunities. We were the first company to do it on the data center. We were able to correlate defects with incidents and save the company a lot of money by increasing reliability because we standardize our platform, identify defects or deviations to the standard configuration, and we were able to mitigate those, remediate, and then increase our uptime drastically. So moving to the cloud does not negate that. We still have our standards. We still know what are the different configurations that our partner teams can change that may hurt them. So we take care of those through DSC. Another thing we do, resource manager policies. We actually determine what things can be deployed or not. For example, what services can be used, what regions can be used. We do this specifically whether we have an ER circuit there or not, so we want to limit that to provide the best experience possible. We need to know what department they belong to because we want to pass the cost over to the right GM. So departments, we have tags, et cetera, that we mandate, if you will, through the policies. Today, we're doing this manually, one subscription at a time, and we have been working closely with the OMS team to get a more richer governance capability so that we could do it at the tenant level and not at the subscription level to enable the Fed scenario. So we're super cool. We're super excited about the cool capabilities that are coming up. Another example for management is templates. In order to help our partners get to the cloud faster, we actually put together a bunch of templates. We did it for IaaS, for PaaS, for data lakes. So the engineering teams, our GM has the saying that not all BPUs are made equally. That means some engineering teams are, first to jump into the cloud, first to jump into the agile world. They were first to jump into the DevOps world. And other engineering teams, not so much, especially our HR, finance department. It takes longer to bring them along. So we help them by creating standardized templates. They have the RBAC controls already in place, the configuration and whatnot, so they could just click, fill a little bit of information, and they're up and running in Azure. So we're making their life easier. And of course, we're doing that, but we're not only sharing that internally with our teams so that those BPUs that are super excited and have awesome ideas, sometimes even greater ideas than the one we have, can actually partner in and improve those templates. But we also have an external Git repository where we share that with the world, and anyone can go there and leverage that. And again, we're enforcing all of that through DSC. So that's how we manage our enterprise at scale. And with that, I'm going to ask Sasha to come over and talk to you a little bit about Azure governance. Thank you.
Thanks, Baz. All right, before I get started, I wanted to do a quick pulse. How many of you play the role of the cloud architect in your organization? Any cloud architects? Ooh, 70%. Any IT engineers, ops engineers in the house? Any developers? Only my developer. One of the things I wanted to talk about was, I think you guys have seen the management wheel that we've been presenting in a lot of our sessions. One of the new areas that we started to invest in is this governance area. But I wanted to give you a little bit of context on why we started it and how did this whole thing form. One of the trends that we noticed started emerging is this new notion of the cloud custodian. The cloud custodian essentially plays the role of ensuring that any applications that are deployed in any type of cloud follow the best practices, are secure and compliant. And one of the things we noticed in a lot of organizations is anytime the application teams came up with an application, they actually had to get it reviewed by the cloud custodian, and he had to approve it. The problem with this model is they soon become a bottleneck, right? And this is something that we started to see in a lot of different organizations, is that it actually took them on average 3 to 6 months before an application that was almost ready to actually be deployed in production. And one of the things that we asked these cloud custodians is, hey, do you like reviewing and going through all of this? And they said, actually, no, we want to get out of the way of the developer. We want them to actually use these native clouds in an easy and agile manner. But the problem is we have no way to enforce it, right? And so today, one of the efforts with this governance area that we're working on is to really provide the tooling to help build the necessary guardrails and sandboxed environments which IT and these cloud custodians can actually give the developers and and have it rest assured that when the developers build applications, these applications are already following best practices. So for example, when they create a VM, we always enforce the VMs have tags on it. If we ensure that we block them from creating, maybe D-series VMs. These are all things that we can enforce today through governance, and especially through the new policy announcement that we had. I'm going to give you guys a demo. Actually, before I get into that, there are 4 areas that we're actually investing in cloud governance. The first one is policy-based management. You guys have seen the announcement today. How many of you all attended Joseph Chan's session on Azure policy today? Okay. So that's a big area. The big announcement that we had around policy-based management really gives you a way to assess and actually enforce policy, something that AWS doesn't do today. The second one is cost optimization and cost management. If you guys are familiar or you heard, we acquired a company called Cloudin. Cloudin is one of the leaders in cost management, and they do cross-cloud. One thing great for Azure customers such as yourselves, Cloudin is actually free for Azure customers. So that's something you guys can definitely take advantage of today. The other area that we're investing in governance is around what we call resource visibility. One thing we heard from these cloud custodians and cloud architects was, there are a bunch of different subscriptions out there. There are a bunch of different resources, but we don't know what resources are there and what are the properties of these resources. And so one of the things that we are doing is actually giving you visibility and trying to bring all these resources together and provide you a single view into the resources that are available in your environment. The last one is a new area that we invested, one that I'm actually very passionate about, is called subscription governance. You guys filled the survey right now. That's all actually feeding into subscription governance. And the challenge we heard from a lot of customers is, they don't know whether they should create a subscription for an application or do they use a resource group for an application. And then after a while, they end up having 300, 400 subscriptions, and it becomes a real maintenance nightmare. And what they really want to do is be able to provide a sandbox environment that they can then give to the application teams to use. And a sandbox environment, by that I mean being able to control what are the resources available, and maybe even pre-provisioning some of those resources, such as networking. And I'll give you guys a little bit about more details on what we're doing over there. My first demo is a policy-based demo that I wanted to show, but I wanted to share a story about this first. So one of my customers, someone I work with very closely, they actually got a bunch of interns over the summer, right? And so the interns came and they said, hey, what do we make these interns do? And they said, hey, let's get them to build a cloud application. So as all good interns, they got really excited about it. And one of the requirements about this cloud application was that it had to be really performant and scalable. So like any good intern, what they did is they went and picked the most expensive VM that was there, right? And not only did they pick the most expensive VM, they created 10 of them, right? So roll forward 30 days, and my friend Jeremiah gets this bill which has $50,000 on it, and his eyes pop out like the mask. And then he calls me up and says, like, hey, Satya, what do I do? All right, and I'm like, sorry, man, I can't really help you on that. And so policy is something that we've actually introduced to help set and enforce some of these standards. So my demo for you guys today is I'm going to play the role of the intern here, right? I'm going to come in, I'm going to create a VM. I've gone and pre-populated some of the fields for everybody. I'm then going to go and pick one of the most expensive VMs that are out there. This $5,000 one looks like a really nice one for me to pick. I'm going to use the default settings, and voila. One of the things you'll notice is, since I have policy enforced in my environment, I can now actually validate to see if this deployment that I'm trying to do meets my governance and policy requirements. But not only that, we actually give you some really good information about the policy that's there. For example, we tell you that only the A-series VMs are allowed, and we also tell you what is the policy definition that's associated to it as well. What's great about this is there may be a case that, hey, I might actually need this M-series VM, right, and I don't even know who to contact. And one of the things that we allow you to do is actually go and click into the details to see maybe who is the owner of this policy. So not only do we just block you, but we actually give you a way, if you need to ask for an exception, to actually find out who the owner of the policy is and actually go and contact that person. But what's also good is I can actually come and see in more details about this policy. I can see all the different A-series VMs that are allowed. And because our policy is based on ARM, I can actually view the definition of this policy in here as well. And if you guys are familiar, ARM is based on JSON, so the concepts are very similar, where I can go and edit my JSON statement and create my own custom policy. But we know authoring is not something everybody enjoys, so working with Vaz's team, we've actually come up with a set of 50 different policies that we ship out of the box that you guys can leverage. And so Vaz and her team have created a bunch of policies that the internal Microsoft IT uses, and we've actually shipped that and made available to you guys as customers, and we plan to do more of that over the future. I think one of the things that we're looking to do is even making a community-based gallery where other customers such as yourselves, if you guys come up with some great policies, you can share it with the rest of the community and leverage that as well. So if you haven't already done so, you need to go to azure.com/policy. It's a very simple experience. You click that Try It Now button, and then you'll get into the queue to sign up for policy. It's something that's in limited preview today. I highly encourage you guys to take it and not get into Jeremiah's situation of getting the $50,000 bill. This is a great way to at least start enforcing it out of the box today. I'm now going to take a moment to talk about subscription management. One thing you heard Vaz say is, one of the things that they've done is they've come and created some quote-unquote governed templates, some governed scripts, some governed VM images. But one of the things that we're hearing from a lot of customers is this challenge around, I can make it all available in GitHub, but how do I get people to actually use it and ensure that they use these appropriate templates and resources? So we actually introduced this new project. It's an incubation project that we started. It's called Blueprints. And what Blueprints allows you to do is actually bring in all these resources, what we call artifacts, and then you can target these artifacts to a subscription. So it's like creating an environment, right? You can bring in your templates, you can bring in your VMs, and then you can target this environment to a subscription. So if your app team comes and says, hey, I want to create this new application, you can pick from a gallery of blueprints, target that blueprint at the subscription, and when the app team comes in, they actually get a curated experience of what they can use and what is available. Another unique characteristic about blueprints is not a simply deploy and forget type of thing. And what I mean by that is you can actually go and say that, Central IT owns configuring the networking for any environment, and so that's something that we automatically do for everyone, but we can actually make a set of ARM templates available. So I can say that, hey, I'm going to have networking is something I lay as a foundational piece out of the box, but I can make web apps, SQL databases, and many other different Azure resources available for the app team to actually leverage. So it's a bit of a different mind shift where most templates today are, you kind of fire and forget. Here, we're giving you an environment where there's certain things that are pre-provisioned and certain things that you can actually use from. To illustrate this, I wanted to give you guys a really quick example. So here, I'm creating my own Contoso blueprint. I, as the central IT, can come and create this environment. This environment can have a set of templates, policies, networking, scripts, Azure functions, VM images, and these, as central IT, you guys can come and create them and publish it into this environment and make it a stamp. And you can also configure some of these to be instantiated by default. I was giving you guys the networking example. Another example is you maybe want to have, anytime a subscription is created, you might want to associate an AD to that subscription, so those admins automatically get access to the subscription. You guys probably have a bunch of scripts kind of doing that today. We want to make that experience really seamless for you. Once I created this blueprint, I can now apply the blueprint to a subscription. We introduced a new concept of a management group. You can apply it at the management group level as well as the resource group. And so you, as central IT, has a lot of power and control over what the app team uses, but you no longer need to sit and review these architecture diagrams. You can actually just set the environment up and rest assured that they'll follow it. And what's great is this application team can then just come. They can sign when they log in with their subscription. They now get this governed experience and a curated marketplace from which they can work with. Again, like I said, it's an incubation project. We have about 5 customers in it. If you guys are interested in signing up, it's something that you're interested in participating, you can go to aka.ms/sub, and it's a 3-step form to fill out. And we'll keep you guys updated on the progress of this incubation project. We have a few customers really excited about it, especially when you're trying to use Azure at scale. It's something that you want to be able to do. So we'd love to have you guys participate. And with that, I'm going to wrap up and say thank you for coming. I know you guys all stayed here to get the Starbucks to see who won the Starbucks gift card, so we'll get to that right now. Thanks, guys.